Hi guys, and welcome back to Rich Girl Energy podcast. I'm your host Priyanka, and this is episode 8 of my podcast. Today's episode is called Detaching from Outcomes. This episode has been broken down into 5 different chapters. Obviously, according to whichever chapter you want to watch and listen to, feel free to skip to that one. I'm going to be starting off with chapter 1, which is called Why Attachment Creates Suffering. Attachment is often disguised as care. It feels like love, it feels like ambition, it feels like you want everything to work out the way you want. But when you actually think about it, attachment is really about control. It's the need to know how something is going to turn out. It's the need to want reassurance before anything bad happens. It's the need to manage uncertainty so you don't have to sit with discomfort. And that is why attachment creates suffering. When you start to attach to how things are going to turn out, your peace becomes conditional. It's dependent. You only feel calm and peaceful if things go the way that you want them to go. You only feel grounded when things work out the way you wanted it to work out. You only feel grounded when you get the response that you were hoping for. And that is why your nervous system is on edge. Detachment doesn't mean that you don't care anymore or you stopped caring. It just means that you stop letting results affect your inner state. You can really want something but not obsess over it. The woman that understands detachment is a woman who is present in her life. Instead of consistently mentally living in imagined futures, she enjoys the process of becoming instead of attaching her worth to the outcome. She moves with intention, and that shift alone changes how she feels and how she lives life. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 2, which is called Letting Go of the Need to Control. I'm going to be honest here, this is something that I actually started to realise that I kind of struggled with. I didn't realise, and then I kind of thought about it and I was like, do you know what, with me, when I do things, there's a certain outcome that I want, and if I don't get it, I start to feel a bit down and I start to think why I didn't get it. And then I started to step away from that kind of mindset. And then I start to realise the need for control usually comes from fear. The fear of being disappointed, the fear of being rejected, the fear of things not working out the way you want them to work out. You try to manage that outcome. You might start to replay conversations in your head, think about how people are going to respond. You might try to predict what's coming next. This consistent mental rehearsal is exhausting and draining. Detachment is about learning what is in your control and what isn't. You can control your effort, your honesty, your boundaries, but you can't control other people's emotions, their choices, their timing. When you start to understand and accept this, you start to stop trying to manage every single small thing in your life. You start to show up fully. You don't need to think about how everything is going to unfold. Letting go of control doesn't mean that you don't care anymore. It means you're not carrying what isn't yours. Now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 3, which is called Practicing Detachment in Daily Life. Detachment is a practice. You need to incorporate it every day in your life, and then it will form a habit. It will just become something that you're used to. It shows up in the small moments, like messaging someone and then putting your phone away instead of sitting there trying to wait for their response. Stop replaying conversations in your head and thinking what you could have said instead of what you did say. You choosing to be in your present moment and live your life how you want to live it now, instead of trying to think about the future and what you want to do next, instead of thinking about what might happen next. Detachment is you trusting that what is meant to happen will happen. You still show up with intention, you still put the effort in, you just don't hold on to the outcome. This is what will help soften your nervous system. You start to get through your days more calmly because you trust yourself and you know everything will work out. And now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 4, which is called Detachment in Friendships and Relationships. A lot of the time, detachment in relationships can be misunderstood. People think that being detached is being distant or emotionally unavailable, but true detachment actually creates a healthier connection, whether it's in friendships or relationships. It looks like you still love someone, but you don't have to cling on to them. You still care for them, but you don't need to be controlling. You show up without having to force them to reassure you. When you start to detach from people in relationships, you start to see who they really are and how they act. You stop trying to manage how someone actually feels about you. This creates emotional safety for the both of you. Attachment creates pressure, however, detachment creates space. It allows both of you to be who you are without being pressured. And finally, now I'm going to be moving on to chapter 5, which is called The Peace That Comes from Letting Life Unfold. When you start to detach from outcomes, something powerful happens. Your results aren't based on your worth. You stop defining who you are by what works out and what doesn't. Your life becomes more peaceful and you become more steady. Your life starts to feel more lighter, and not because it's perfect. Everything is working out the way it needs to, and you don't need to obsess over the outcome. You trust yourself and you trust that whatever unfolds, you'll be able to meet it. This trust changes how you move. You move with intention, you choose confidence, and you act with clarity. Detachment makes you grounded. You still create, you still move, and you still desire. You just don't cling. And when you stop being clingy, life starts to flow to you naturally. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Mwah!